There is no doubt that if you go into anything blindfolded, not knowing what to expect, things can get stressful. And it's the same thing when you're buying a home. One commonality that I've noticed between both first-time buyers and people that have maybe bought a home or two in the past is that they don't really have a clear step-by-step idea of what the process is actually about. And what this ends up causing is stress, fear of the unknown, uncertainty, and a lot of feelings that just don't make buying a home that pleasurable. That's one of the reasons why people always talk about how stressful it is to buy a home. But today we're going to take time to go through the basic steps of buying a home. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Francisco Rios, and I help people just like you buy and sell real estate here in the Chicagoland area. Thanks to YouTube, we've been getting phone calls every day from people just like you that are planning on making the big move. So if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do to help make life easier for you when it comes to Chicagoland real estate, feel free to call or text the number on the screen. So look, today's video is basically going to be part one of my buyer's consultation. Part two is usually all about you. So we're just going to put it out here today, and we're going to be working off of this graphic here on the screen. We typically start at 12 o'clock, and then by the time we make a full circle going clockwise, you are a homeowner. So step number one is always going to be talk with a real estate agent. Sometimes people talk to the bank before they come to me. Most of the time they come to me before they go to the bank. And here's the thing, that as a real estate agent, their job or my job in this situation is to guide you as clearly as possible and to help you accomplish your goals. That looks different for everyone. For you, it might mean buying a home where you can raise your family. Meanwhile, I'm looking at it through the lens of helping you make a smart investment. So that just means that we have to be not just timely, communicative, but we actually need to be aware of what kind of homes we're looking at, right? What do the property disclosures look like? Have there been any major issues with this home? Is it pending a lawsuit? Does it have any problems with the village? Is it in a flood zone? There are so many different situations that we come across on a day-to-day basis that having a realtor is mainly all about protecting your best interest. So here's the thing. Most people don't know how real estate agents get paid. As of a year ago, there was some noise on the TV, on the news about lawsuits and changes of compensation being made, and people are still unclear about how real estate agents get paid. I can tell you this, I don't get paid hourly. I don't get paid per appointment. I'm not going to get paid to text you information about a house, to take you to look at houses. As an independent contractor, I only get paid when the home closes. So the day you get your keys, that's the day that I get paid. Sometimes this process can take 30 days. And sometimes it takes some people years to buy a home and actually close on it because maybe they're looking for something very particular. Each one is okay. We'll just be clear, like I don't get a salary and I don't get paid hourly or per minute. I only get paid when you buy your home, the day of the closing. So is there a down payment or a deposit that I personally charge? No. I know that a lot of agents do charge some kind of deposit or like some upfront fee to represent home buyers. And if you come across one of those agents, I'm not saying they're bad agents. I'm just saying ask some questions, right? Like what happens if you don't deliver on your duties and I want to get out of this contract? Do I get my deposit back? Ask questions. There's contracts out there. There's a lot of information you're going to sign. You should ask questions just to feel comfortable and know what you're agreeing to. So back to my business though, like we don't charge a deposit. We don't have a retainer. What I do have is a buyer's exclusive agreement that we need to sign in order to start working together. As of August of 2023, this exclusive buyer's agreement is mandatory throughout the whole country if you're working with a real estate agent. And if you're working with a real estate agent right now and you have no idea what this document is, you should run, because they probably don't know what they're doing, or they tricked you into signing something that you know nothing about. Now, what this buyer's agreement does is that it binds a relationship, right? It makes you my client, and it makes me your real estate agent. And as a realtor with a professional license, I have certain responsibilities of being honest, being upfront, being timely, having your fiduciary duty like in mind, like just being your fiduciary, doing what's best for you. And as a client, you're committing to working with me and not some Joe Schmo that you meet a week from now out on the street, uh, because we have an agreement to work together. So typically, I personally like to make those contracts for 6 months. On that contract, I do state that I charge a commission fee. And I'll say this, like over 100 families served to this date, I've never had a buyer pay me out of their pocket to buy a home. I've always been able to negotiate my fees with the seller directly so that the seller pays my services for my clients. And on the listing side, I've always had the seller pay for my salary as well. So you should know going into these agreements that you are committing to paying your buyer's agent whatever percent it is that they're charging you. And we do the same thing, but we don't really plan on starting to charge our buyers for our services. So if we've done it over 100 times with having the sellers pay our fees, we'll continue to do the same thing. And we will scrap and negotiate as hard as we can for you so that you can buy a home without having to incur any additional cost. Now, before we move on from this step, I will tell you this, that this buyer's exclusive agreement is a legal document. You are agreeing to work with me. I am agreeing to represent you to the best of my ability. But if you, for whatever reason, feel like you're not getting the service that you deserve, I'm not taking your calls. I'm not taking you to look at homes. Maybe I'm letting disclosures fly by without noticing major issues. You could always send an email, send a text message, some kind of written record, and tell me that you don't feel comfortable working together anymore, and I will gladly let you out of that contract. So if you are working with another agent, ask them what that looks like, because everyone runs their business differently, and there is no standard in the real estate industry. So now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to go into step number 2, which is talk to a lender about financing, or go to your bank and get a pre-approval or proof of funds if you're buying a home using cash. At the beginning of this video, I did tell you that this is part 1 of my buyer's consultation that I take every single client through. Part number 2 is all about you. What kind of home you need, where do you want to be, how much you want to pay per month. And in order to make that process easier, it always helps to have your financing in order, because this is what happens. If you go to buy a home, you're going to need to prove and show to the seller that you can afford buying their home for them to take it off the market and give you enough time to close on the property. So when we're going to start working together, having a clear idea of what your monthly budget is key. We need to know those numbers, because the last thing I want for any of my clients is for them to close on a home that is maybe too expensive, or maybe the price seemed right, but the taxes are high. Now they're strapped for money because their monthly payment is higher than they originally intended on paying. So here's where the lender comes in. If you're not paying in cash for your home, then you need to talk to a lender. There's different kinds of lenders out there. You can go to your local bank, you can go to a credit union, you can apply online to some rando bank. I typically don't recommend those because there's not a dedicated lender on your file and the service is not very consistent. Or you can work with a mortgage broker. Mortgage brokers are super common here in the Chicagoland area, and they typically have more options. They're more flexible. They have different programs and also offer different incentives. Now, if you're interested in buying new construction, what I see is that a lot of my sales reps will introduce us to their lenders, And they typically have special promotions where you can buy a home with a interest rate that is way below what they're offering currently in the market. So there's different kinds of lenders for different kinds of situations. We have lenders that work with everything from social securities, W-2s, 1099s, ITIN numbers. I mean, I've got a guy that can help you purchase a home if you get paid cash at work. It is going to require a different process. There's different steps to that, but there's a lender for everything. So when you talk to a lender, there's a couple of things that I recommend asking, right? Because this person works for you at the end of the day. So when you go talk to your lender, I recommend asking these questions. Number one is going to be, what is my interest rate? Interest rates tend to be like flat across the board. Sometimes you'll see promotions that tell you about an interest rate that's a little bit lower than what you see everywhere else. And typically that involves paying points, which means that you're paying more for that loan as part of your closing costs. Ask the question. Question number two is, like, I recommend having a monthly budget in mind already when you go into buying a home, because that's the number that should determine how expensive or how affordable of a home you can buy. If you only want to spend $3,000 a month on a mortgage, then there's no point in looking at $500,000 or $600,000 homes that are going to make that monthly payment closer to $4,000, because then you're going to be strapped for cash, you're going to be cranky, and when your kids want to go to Disney World, you're going to have to say no because we bought this home. Like, maybe in 30 years we can take you, right? So just be conscious of how much you want to pay per month. Bring that number to the lender and then ask them, how much home could I afford at this budget? Then you can be the one that determines whether it works for you or not. Question number three that I would ask a lender is, how much time do you need to close on a property, right? Is there anything, I guess we're going into question four, is there anything that I can do to strengthen my credit and maybe have a lower interest rate or pre-qualify for more money? A good lender will be able to walk you through all of your options, and they work for you and they get paid at the end of the transaction. So you should definitely feel comfortable going to them with any money questions. Now, whenever we do go look at homes, we're going to take that pre-approval that your lender gave you, and we're going to use that to submit offers. So before I skip a step, let's go to step number three. Step number three is your home search. So you've already talked to your realtor, you picked out a lender, you have your financing. Now it's time to begin your home search. What we typically do is that I set you up on a search using the MLS. It's called the Multiple Listing Service. Picture this as one main website where any home that goes for sale with a realtor goes into, and then from there, that website sends it to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, and all of the other apps that are out there in the market. This is the main source of listings when we're talking about real estate licenses. So what we do is that I'll typically set up a search for you to go out via email. If we're looking for a very rare product, a very rare home, then we're going to set up that search so that it fires the second that a new listing comes on the market. If you're looking for a very common home or just have a broad search, then we can select for these listings to go out once a day, twice a day, once a week. I mean, once every 2 weeks. It's up to you. But what I personally like to do in my business is that once you see a home that catches your attention, you looked at the map, you know the location works for you, send me a screenshot. If it's your partner or your family members or whoever's buying a home with you that's also looking with you, then we could start a group text and we could all communicate in that group text. Hey, Francisco, I saw this 123 Main Street home pop up. Can you look into it for me? First thing I'm going to do when you send me a home is that I'm going to look at the disclosures, right? We want to know if there's any big problems with the home. We're going to look into the flood zone. I want to make sure that it's not in a flood zone. And if it is, I'll let you know that it's in a flood zone so you can make your decision. And I'll more than likely lay out your possibilities or options. If it is in a flood zone, then you can determine what you want to do. Also, sometimes the homes are rented out. There's a tenant that's got a 1 year lease. I'll let you know those details before we go look at a home. And you end up buying something you're going to be stuck with for a year without being able to live in it. So you text me to look into the home. I look into the home. We schedule showings in 30-minute increments. So we'll find a time when everyone's available. We'll schedule an appointment and we'll go out to look at the home. We have 30 minutes to look at it. We'll have a start time and an end time. If we go in before or after, it's technically considered trespassing. And we don't want to do that because this phase is not meant for jail. So now when we're looking at homes, I recommend that you guys go in there and just picture yourself living there, right? Picture yourself doing life there every day. Picture coming home from work. Picture working from home. What does it look like when your family comes over, when your friends come over, if you like to entertain? Try to really picture yourself doing life there. Meanwhile, I'm walking around with a realtor eye, looking at windows, scoping out the roof from the street. When we park in front of the home, I'm checking out the driveway, the appliances. I'm looking at the furnace, a water heater. Like, I'm looking at all these big ticket items that could potentially increase or decrease the value, or maybe make the home less appealing to others, but more appealing to you, so that we can have a strong standing point to start negotiating. Okay, so when we look at homes, I'll put this out on YouTube. I'm hoping that no realtors are watching this so they don't start stealing my tricks. But I typically like to rank homes from 1 to 3. And I'll ask my clients, like, my job is not to push you or force you to buy a home because I'm not going to live in it. So I just want you to be in touch with what you actually like so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. So what I typically ask is for you to rate the home from 1 to 3. 1 meaning you love the home and you want to buy it. 2 is a maybe. And 3 means that you never want to see the home again. I don't care. It's not my house. You can be upfront with me. As a matter of fact, upfront communication makes this process a little more fun and a little bit more straightforward. So if it is a 1, then what I typically do is that I'll draw a map around the area. I'll look at the most recent sales that are comparable to the home that we're talking about. And that's how we determine what the value of the home is. This is called a CMA. That's what we call it when we go help people sell their homes. So I'll do a comparative market analysis report or a home evaluation report before you even make an offer, just to determine if the price is right or not. Now, 3 things can happen. The price can be right on point. This can be the perfect price. And you should probably buy it at the price that they're selling it because somebody else will if you don't. The other thing that can happen is that the home is severely overpriced. And we should maybe come in a little bit lower so that you have some negotiation room to buy this house. Another thing that can happen is that the home is underpriced. Typically here in the Chicagoland area, because I know people from all over the country, as a matter of fact, all over the world watch this channel. Here in the Chicagoland area, we've been in a seller's market for years now, meaning that if you underprice a home, you're going to get so much attention from the buyers that are looking in the area that they are slowly going to start to offer, or I should say, very quickly begin to offer more than what the seller is asking for. And then we go into a multiple offer situation. I want to know what we're walking into, so I'll do that price analysis report before you even write an offer. Once we go through those numbers, you can determine whether this is something you want to move forward with or not. If you do want to write an offer, then we go into the next step, which is negotiating a contract. The contracts here in Illinois are very long. Our sales contract is 14 pages. We have disclosures, at least, let's say 6 pages of disclosures where the seller should be upfront and honest about any major issues with the home, including lead, radon, roofing problems, piping problems, foundation issues. Heck, if they've cooked meth in the property. They have to disclose that. So these disclosures are very precise. So we have the contract, the disclosures. We're going to need a fresh pre-approval letter from your lender. And if you're buying a home using cash, we'll need proof of funds from the bank, which can typically be a bank statement. Some sellers will send me snapshots of their bank accounts, whatever works. And then we are going to submit the offer. This is where we go into negotiations. Again, a few things can happen. The seller can accept your offer and sign it. Now we have a binded agreement. They can counter your offer, in which case you can decide if you want to counter back, how much are we going to play, or they can announce that they're going to have multiple offers. Multiple offers means that we're more than likely going to have to make a blind offer above asking price, typically, sometimes below asking price, depending on the home. I'll go back a little bit into the contracts and tell you this. The most important lines in those contracts is how much you're offering for the home, how much your earnest money deposit is, which is the check that you're going to turn in within 3 days of getting an offer accepted, so that the seller can set aside the home and take it off the market for you. That's part of your closing cost. It's part of your down payment, so you don't lose that money. Another thing that's important in the contract is what kind of financing you have. Is it FHA? Is it conventional? Is it cash? How much down payment are you putting in? There's also lines where we can charge a credit for the property taxes, which we will do, and we'll talk about privately when you call me to buy a home. And then there's the closing date, which is typically another strong standing point when it comes to negotiations. If we end up in multiple offer situations, any of those line items can be negotiated to make your offer better. Sometimes the property is overpriced, but there's a lot of demand in the area and a lot of people come to make offers, but they're all below asking price. In those situations, we might end up making a lower offer just to win that multiple offers situation. But anyways, the last thing the seller could do is just decline your offer because they don't like your terms. And before we even end up there, we're going to try to go through all these other processes like the price analysis, the terms of the contract, so that we don't waste our time with someone who's not going to accept your offer. But sometimes it happens, so I'm just putting it out there. Now, when that seller agrees to your price and you agree to their price, that's when we go under contract and we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, this next step is called attorney review period here in Illinois. And this is 5 business days long. It can be extended if needed, or we can close it out sooner if we're ready to move forward. But multiple things are going to happen during these 5 business days. First things first, you're going to need an attorney to represent you on your home purchase. If you don't have a real estate attorney, I have some awesome real estate attorneys. They're going to make sure that you're not buying a home that's got legal problems that can come back and bite you in the rear in the future. Number 2, they're going to make sure that everything is tidied up and just that you're protected, right? So that nothing can put your investment at risk in the future. They don't charge you until closing, at least the ones that I work with. I've worked with some attorneys that other like home buyers have brought along, maybe someone that they were recommended, that do charge a deposit. My attorneys typically don't. They charge at closing. So during these 5 business days, you need your attorney. We're going to send them the contracts. We're going to introduce everyone to each other just to get this transaction started. Number 2, you're going to need to turn in your earnest money deposit. It's typically 1% of the price of the home that you're going to buy. So if the house is $200,000, 1% earnest money means that it's a $2,000 check. There aren't many $200,000 homes, by the way. Just using this for reference. That check typically goes to a brokerage office or an attorney's office, sometimes even a title office, and it's held there until the day of the closing, unless we break the contract before attorney review, which we're getting to. Okay, so now we've got your attorney looped in, you got your earnest money turned in. We're still during this 5 business day period of attorney review. Step number 3 is going to be having an inspection. Listen, I work with a lot of contractors, a lot of people in the trades that sometimes feel comfortable just buying a home as is. I always recommend having an inspection because you get down to the nitty gritty of what's wrong with the home. And not just that, but you have a legal document with photos and breakdowns of everything that the inspector found in that inspection for your protection. So that either you can say, I don't want this house, it's got too many problems, cancel the contract, or so that you can say, I know they're selling it to me as is, they're not going to make any repairs, but now I'm going to take this list and work on making those repairs myself after the closing, or so we can negotiate. An inspection is typically going to cost you right around $450. You could also inspect for radon. I'll tell you more about radon when we meet in person, but a radon inspection is typically $200, and the whole process takes about 2 hours. I always recommend that you're present at the inspection if possible, because you get to see the inspector go through the home and you get to interact with the inspector, and they can show you things that they're finding along the way and explain it to you and answer your questions in a way that is clear and not intimidating. Because what typically happens is that if you don't go to that inspection, the next day we're going to receive an email from the inspector with his report that has photos and descriptions, but the terminology that they use, because they're also licensed professionals, is so intimidating that they're going to make you think that the house is falling apart. So be at the inspection if you can, because if you're not, you might just get a report that shows a stain on the ceiling or on the wall that looks brownish, and it'll say something along the lines of moisture stain observed on the wall of the kitchen. Could be water damage. It could be water intrusion. Recommend contracting a professional to look further into this. When really it was like a coffee spill on the wall. So be at the inspection so you can see everything firsthand and ask these questions. Now, as we finish up our home inspection, we will circle back with each other. Like, we're going to talk before we leave that appointment and write down any of your major concerns. If the home is being sold as is, it means that the seller's not trying to make any repairs. And if you agree to making no request, then it means that they don't want to give you credits neither, because they can cancel the contract and go find another buyer who will buy it as is. But what we're going to do is just make a list of your major concerns and either determine whether this is still the right home for you or not, whether you want to go back in and negotiate for the seller to either make repairs or to give you a credit. It really goes case by case, but we want to leave that appointment knowing what our next step is. The next day, when we get that inspection report from the inspector, we'll loop in your attorney, we'll loop in the seller's attorneys and the realtor, and we're going to negotiate, or we're going to close out this 5-day period, and be ready to move on to the next step. If for whatever reason during that inspection you discover something that definitely discourages you from buying this property, like let's say, for example, I had one recently where the house was sinking on one side. I'm talking like almost like half a foot or a foot already from the outside. Like, you could see it. You could always break the contract, get your earnest money back, and we can continue looking for another home. If it's small safety items that just need to be addressed, then you could also choose to do that when you move into the property. So now we finish this negotiation, we come to an agreement. Now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is the final details. During this period, if you're using a bank to buy the home, to finance a home, they ask for a lot of information, right? They want to see bank statements. They want to see your checks again. They're verifying your employment with your employer. They are sometimes, like, if the ratios are too tight, like meaning if you can barely afford the home per their standards, they might ask you why you're selling so many people money during the week, or like what these additional bills are. This process can feel a little bit intrusive, but the more upfront and the, like, as honest as you can be with your lender, the easier you're going to get through this process. Now, one of the last things that the bank is going to do is that they like to send out an appraiser to the property. What the appraiser does is that they do the same price report that we did before we wrote an offer, just to make sure that the home is worth what the bank is going to lend you. What they're looking for here is to make sure that they're not giving you money to buy a home that's not worth the money. Because if you, for whatever reason, foreclose on this property, or you pass away, or you move away and just abandon the home, they need to be able to resell it and recuperate that money. So they'll send out an appraiser. They typically charge you about $450. This is January of 2026. I heard there are some changes coming where this fee might go up significantly in the next 8 to 9 months. We'll see what happens. I can't promise you anything. I just heard it down the grapevine, okay? So now you pay for this appraiser. They go out, they look at the property. If it's an FHA appraiser, they do a light inspection as well. We can go through those details in person when we meet. If you are going to use FHA financing or VA financing. Now, when the appraiser comes back and says the home is approved, the price is right, now we're just waiting a few days for them to approve your loan so we can go to closing. If the appraiser comes back and says this home is not worth as much as you're getting for it, or you're trying to pay for it, then they won't approve the loan. Like, let's say the house is 500, you're paying 500, but the appraiser says it's only worth 480,000. We have a $20,000 difference that needs to get covered. Either the seller brings the price down, or you can bring cash out of pocket to bridge the difference. Sometimes you can meet halfway. Sometimes I've had sellers challenge the appraisal. It's case by case, but I really want to avoid ending up in this situation, which is the reason why I do a price analysis before writing an offer. Now, once they do approve the appraisal, like I said, we wait a few days, then your lender and your attorney and I are going to get together again, and we're going to talk about scheduling your closing. These happen Monday through Friday between 9 and 5 p.m. You have to be present for the most part. Some banks will allow you to do it electronically. That's rare. Most buyers are there for the closing. And before we go to the closing that day, we're going to go back to the property one last time to walk through it. We call this the final walkthrough. Now, what we're looking for in the final walkthrough is to make sure that the home is in the same conditions that it was when you saw it the first time. And then, if the seller agreed to make repairs during attorney review, we want to confirm that they made those repairs when we go to the final walkthrough. There's been times when we go to a final walkthrough and it had been raining the night before and a tree branch fell on the house and damaged the roof. There's been times when we go to the final walkthrough and the seller is sitting on the sofa watching TV and they haven't even moved yet. There's been times when we go to the final walkthrough and there's garbage everywhere and the lawn hasn't gotten cut. We go to the final walkthrough, we assess the situation, we make sure that everything is right, and if any of those problems that I just mentioned pop up, you might be able to cancel the contract, or what we're going to do is that we're going to sit at that closing table and we're going to negotiate one last time. This can be stressful, but we just want to make sure that you're protected. Like, for example, if that roof branch fell on your house and a few shingles got damaged, we need to get that addressed ASAP. Or we need to delay this closing so that they can get it addressed and we can close. If they left a bunch of garbage and they promise that they're going to come back and clean it up, well, that puts us in a weird situation where we might be better off asking them to give you $800 so that you hire a dumpster to come and clean out the garbage. We play this case by case. Most closings are smooth, but I've seen some stuff. Once we go to closing, you're going to have instructions on how to bring your money. Typically, it's going to be a wire transfer from the bank or a certified cashier's check. You're going to sign a stack of papers that's about this thick. So like if you have one of those stress ball, like medicine balls, start working out your hand because you're going to sign a lot and you're going to get tired. And by the end of that 2 hour period, you're going to be a homeowner, you're going to get your keys, and you're going to be able to move into your property. My friends, I know that I just talked a lot. And if you're still watching this video, then props to you. You're a rare one. But here's the thing, that hearing this process right here, right now, is going to make the transaction a lot smoother for you, because as we move along these different phases and I remind you of what's coming up next, you're going to be informed, you're going to feel empowered, and you're going to be sure of what's coming next instead of just waiting for a surprise phone call from your realtor or your attorney giving you information that you had no idea what to expect, right? That's what we want to avoid. So look, if you've been thinking about buying a home or selling a home here in the Chicagoland area, I encourage you to give me a call or send me a text message so that we can schedule an in-person or a Zoom appointment. Zero hassle, no commitment. And if we're a right fit, then we can work together and help you accomplish the American dream. If you've already bought a home and you're just watching this for fun because you, I don't know, couldn't find anything more entertaining out there, then let me know. What do you think about this process? What do you think about my breakdown? Does it make sense? Was this your experience when you bought a home? My friends, thank you so much for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.